Being such a big Ben 10 fan as a kid meant the anticipation of a live action movie was like a dog being tempted with a walk. Ben 10 Race Against Time hit our screens in November of 2007, and I couldn't even tell you how much I watched it back then. Not only did I record it on the Skybox, but I swear this film was on like every day for like 2 years at some point in the Cartoon Network schedule. And I mean, a feature-length action movie based on my favourite superhero of all time? Sign me up. But whilst I remember this movie being absolute cinema, I wondered how much it holds up today. First of all, this movie was directed by Alex Winter. Not only is he Bill from Bill and Ted, but my brother also went on to direct the Smosh movie. He's got an insane life story, honestly. The movie follows Ben as he returns to school after a summer of Omnitrix shenanigans. There's an interdimensional emo called Eon who wants to conquer the universe with a side plot of Ben and Gwen taking part in a talent show. As far as straight-to-TV movies go, it is definitely a straight-to-TV movie. The movie opens up in Bellwood where a mysterious energy destroys the Bellwood welcome sign, followed by the materialization of this dude. So we don't technically know this yet, but this is Eon. He's an interdimensional time traveler who would go on to be one of Ben 10's many retconned characters. And just a fun fact, I grew up fully believing this guy's name was Ian as a kid rather than Eon. I don't know why. Maybe the translation to an American accent. Could you just imagine me in like the school playground like, hey yo, did you see that film with Ben for Ian?
It's Ian. No!
Eon starts causing unnecessary havoc when he's confronted by Heat Blast. But like, middle-aged Heat Blast? Very fittingly, of course, Heat Blast was the first alien we got in the TV show, so it makes sense that he's the first alien we see in the movie. Whilst his transition into live action isn't awful, it's really just like the head that ruins it. When Heat Blast flames go out, you do see a full head, but for the most part, it's just a faceplate and the rest is just engulfed in fire. So I don't know, just seeing this sort of like really awkward bald head underneath the flames, it's just a bit uncanny. Though for a 2007 straight-to-TV movie, this really isn't that bad. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were nominated for awards for this VFX. They begin fighting and Eon summons some battle-ready minions to distract Heat Blast. So of course, Heat Blast does what Heat Blast is most known for. Karate. He eventually turns Eon into ashes and flees the scene, declaring the battle to have been too easy before timing out and returning to his normal form. We officially meet Ben, played by Graham Phillips, Gwen, played by Haley Ram, and Grandpa Max, played by Lee Majors. They tell Ben to get back in the rust bucket because it's late at night, which looks beautiful in live action, might I say, and we roll the theme song. No pun intended. 10 out of goddamn 10. Whoever's decision it was to turn the already iconic theme song into a 2000s punk banger better have gotten a raise that week. That day, even. Ben goes to school the next day, and it's what you'd expect. Standard school hijinks, Crash and JT get a live-action form, and the casting is low-key spot on. They fill his locker with gum, and when he tries to throw it back at them, it hits the dude from Star Trek, aka the school's principal. We then see him at home eating dinner with his parents, and they're talking about what happened in school, and it's just a weird scene. They're kind of like your standard Disney Channel style parents, but then also they have this weird complex for wanting Ben to call them Carl and Sandra over mom and dad.
It's Sandra and Carl. Okay, we're all equals in this house.
Yeah, Queen. You do you, I guess. Your dog is on the internet in the middle of the night, by the way. Ben visits Grandpa Max and wants to go back on the road again, but since summer is over, he has to stay in Bellwood and go to school. Meanwhile, Max is literally preoccupied working on a wrench that is secretly a laser gun. I also want to take this time to say that Ben and Gwen's casting in this movie is pretty good, but at no point in this 1 hour 5 minute motion picture does this dude look anything like Grandpa Max. If it's not a pair of glasses, it's this damn baseball cap, which I swear is in this dude's like contract or something. It has more screen time than most other characters. Max basically tells Ben that he has to be a kid again and that the crime fighting summer is over. So Ben decides to blow off some steam and go to the local diner where like every single school bully he's ever had is just there, which I guess is just an issue of living in a small town. I mean, I can't go to my local big Tesco without having a full school reunion. Because the kids are making fun of him, he wants to teach them a lesson and plans to do so by turning into forearms. And I mean, in true Omnitrix fashion, it gives him grey matter instead of forearms, but like, was he trying to kill him? Was that his plan? What would you need forearms for in this situation? I'm not even convinced forearms would be able to fit inside the diner. As Grey Matter, he trashes the diner, making all the bullies pay for their actions, and this wonderful old man just sits there untouched.
Can I see that?
I don't know. Can you?
Best character in the movie, hands down. Whilst we're on the topic of Grey Matter, I don't think his design and animation looks as good as Heat Blast did, but I think how small he is in size does sort of lend itself to the more cartoonish looking, way they portrayed him, though the transformation sequence is horrific. But anyway, Eon's main goal in this film isn't like incredibly clear, but he's in search for the Hands of Armageddon, which has the ability to like open a portal in space and time and resurrect his people from the ashes or some shit. But in doing so, he wants the Omnitrix so that he can turn into a younger version of himself. Now, Eon is thousands of years old, so I don't know what sort of age we're looking at when we talk about him being a younger version of himself, but that's what he wants. And this is elaborated on further by Grandpa Max, because Eon was actually the first alien the plumbers ever caught like 2,000 years ago. Team Tennyson take a trip to what presents itself as an old abandoned chem lab, but it's actually where Eon was cryogenically frozen and stored away. Until, of course, this happened. And it's not once explained how he did it. I don't know how you, like, wake up from a cryogenic freeze. Did the temperature drop just enough? But surely at that point, you're fucking Baltic. Do you know what I mean? Apologies for swearing in a Ben 10 video, by the way, but I really don't think anybody under the age of, like, 16 cares about Race Against Time. Although they should. They look for the guy who was meant to be on duty when Eon escaped, and...
I'm not dead!
Filth. He's somewhat alive. His arm just tears off his body, and what was the idea with this scene? This guy then officially dies in front of their eyes, and they're just unfazed. Max at one point is like, hey, he was a true friend, and that's it. Which is another thing. I don't know why Max is like incredibly southern in this either. Well, I'll tell you, Ben, that Omnitrix is cool, but ain't nothing against this here raffle. And that's the last American accent I'll be doing in this video. They then head to a hardware store because Max said so, but I just want to take a minute to talk about this shot here as they're leaving the facility. This is the most show accurate the cast will look this entire movie. Ben has his iconic white and black t-shirt, but will remain in these blue jeans with no attempt at the green cargo pants at any point. Max's jeans are the only accurate item of clothing on him. The red and white shirt is probably the replacement for the red Hawaiian shirt with no white shirt underneath. And I tell you, this hat is pissing me off. He does get a slightly more accurate shirt later on, but they change his trousers too. I'm not having it. Like, he was so close to making these like show accurate costumes. I don't understand why they strayed from that. Gwen has a blue shirt. And that's about the extent of the effort they went with her. I just don't understand why they didn't dress these characters as the characters. And it's not even as if it's meant to make it like more realistic, because the only realistic thing about this is the fact that it's live action. I mean, look at the Omnitrix. The Omnitrix is gorgeous, beautifully translated into live action. That's all magic and fantastical, only turns into a bunch of aliens. You don't need the realism of them having clothes that isn't exactly the same as what they'd wear in the show. They arrive at Miller's hardware store, where Max performs a secret unlocking routine that turns the entrance into like a lift, an elevator. They get in there and it leads them down to a plumber's secret facility. In case some of you made it this far in the video and don't know what the plumbers are, they're basically the space police. They're the intergalactic law enforcement that deals with alien threats, and there is an Earth branch, or at least was an Earth branch, that Max Tennyson was a part of. However, we find out that there are still a couple of Earth plumbers still around and kicking. They're all people Ben and Gwen know because they've been secretly keeping an eye on them and the Omnitrix. One being Principal Star Trek, who'd have thought? And this facility is where the Hands of Armageddon are being stored. And the plumbers reveal that they've tried to destroy it multiple times, but it's only led to sort of real-world scenarios. Like, they say the first time they tried to destroy it, it created the Grand Canyon, and then another time it was responsible for, like, the Chicago fires. I do always find it amusing when, like, movies and TV shows retcon, like, real-life, like, things. All is well until we find out one of the minions was stalking them, and now they've broken into the base. And I gotta say, 10 out of 10 with the urgency, guys.
Reinforcements. Weapons.
The entire fight scene is made up of fast cut shots to avoid any form of choreography, low effort laser blasts, and an awfully placed Wilhelm scream. Eon does manage to get to the Hands of Armageddon, but he's having some performance anxiety. He then somehow corrupts the Omnitrix before Ben is able to use it and drags him outside, further trying to infect the Omnitrix. Ben is able to make off on a stolen bike, and Eon starts remotely controlling a car to chase after him. But Ben is eventually saved by another new plumber. And it's the guy from the diner. I'm telling you, best character in the film.
Aha, gotcha.
So Ben goes home and... Jesus, right, okay. So Ben goes home and Max is waiting for him in his room. But I've just noticed how, like, blatantly there Max is. Like, there's no way Ben didn't see him. Ben explains that the Omnitrix turned purple, and Max says Ben needs to go into hiding. That plan lasts about 2 seconds before Ben talks him out of it with a not very convincing speech. But Max just agrees, and the plan has changed, and now Ben's gonna be bait instead. At school the next day, Ben and Principal White are chatting about their situation when... It's as if they predicted Gen Z brain rot edits before any of us were old enough to actually do them. But this scene does result in Eon attacking Ben and him transforming into the best hero in the entire franchise, Diamond Head. Alright, I love Diamond Head. Always have, always will. Favorite alien, you know, fight me. But the character models are getting worse as we go along. The animation too, man, like I hate to keep dogging on the movie, and especially Diamond Head, but they make such an effort to keep him in mid-shots and close-ups to avoid seeing him walk at all costs. So basically what happens is Ben pulls the fire alarm and they realise that everybody's about to gather in the hall eventually, so Eon disappears, Ben hides in the bathroom, and later that evening he's walking to the rust bucket with Gwen and Grandpa Max, when the rust bucket just fucking blows up. The plumbers get locked in a holding cell in their own facility, and we find Team Tennyson tied up in chains with Ben separated from the rest. The pacing was like fine throughout the movie up until this point, and then all of a sudden they were like, we don't know how to transition this, so just blow up the rust bucket, knock him out, that'll be it. Eon then walks in and drops some universe lore that the show never did up to this point. He explains that the reason that the Omnitrix times out after 10 minutes is so that the user, the host, doesn't experience any sort of like permanent merging with the DNA that they've turned into. It doesn't hold up in later seasons where Ben can stay as one form for much longer, but it's a cool addition to the lore that my 4-year-old self really enjoyed. Eon then overrides the 10-minute failsafe and hacks into the Omnitrix to turn Ben into a younger version of Eon, whose consciousness is then somehow put into Ben's new form. The current version of Eon is then like, there can't be two of us, or he disappears, but then the Eon that Ben is still the conscious mind of the other Eon. I don't understand how that works. I don't understand how the Omnitrix works either, in fairness. So now that Eon's looking funky, fresh and young, he activates the Hands of Armageddon. We see portals opening and we see alien spaceships start entering our world in real time. Meanwhile, Ben's parents are in the audience of a school talent show because we can't forget that's happening. Which is weird as it is, because them joining the talent show was only really a cover-up story to begin with, but then they actually do join the talent show, assumably because Ben's parents are going to go watch it. But it was brought up very minimally in this story so far, and again with the pacing at the end of this film, just nothing, boom! Everything's happening all at once. As Eon is powering the hands, Gwen is able to activate Max's laser wrench whilst in his back pocket, and miraculously doesn't kill the both of them. Instead, cutting through the chains they were tied in. Max then uses some high voltage cables to zap Ben out of the way, and despite his immense power, the small charge of electricity is enough to send him flying. I keep mentioning the pacing, but the problem so far is that like nothing seems high stakes, because we're getting from like a somewhat serious moment and then instantly cut into comic relief, either Ben's parents at the talent show or the plumbers who are locked up in one of their own holding cells, waiting for White to find the key to open the door on a comically large keychain. The plumbers are eventually released and they team up like the true fighting force they really are.
Let's get plumbing.
I love this film. I love it. Now, Max is faced with the Hands of Armageddon and he has a choice to make. Somehow, through some method, he decides that what could help this situation is an electrical charge. And of course he has these cables with the exposed wires on them that he just used against Ben/Eon, but he doesn't know whether there needs to be a positive charge or a negative charge hitting the Hands of Armageddon. So, you know, YOLO, I guess. And the performance here from Lee Majors is like none other. If you want to know what it would feel like to get the kickback of 2 electrical charges and the power of a multi-dimensional alien device, just take a look at this guy, peeing outside on a cold day. That's the feeling. Gwen then gives Ben the good old power of love and friendship speech to snap him out of it, and it works. I don't know if I'm surprised or not. They bluff it first, he almost kills her, and then the plumbers try to attack, and then, you know, any sign of sort of martial arts or choreography, they tap out as if they've never had any training before. But then Gwen does revert back to the love and friendship thing, and then it does work. With this, Ben is able to regain control of his body, destroys the minions, and reveals a hidden Omnitrix which allows him to revert back to Graham Phillips. They threaten us with a Grandpa Max death, but the plumbers pull him away from the machine, deactivating it and sending all the alien ships back to where they came from. All seems well. They're about to head out to the talent show, but no! Eon returns. The old Eon. The older Eon. He throws Ben across the room, forcing him to transform into Wildmutt. Point is proven. The CGI is just getting worse with each alien. How did we go from Heat Blast animations to this? Some of these shots are generally just PNGs dragged across frame. And the big climactic end to the battle is Wildmutt picking up a frozen version of Gwen, using her as a baseball bat, knocking Eon into the Hands of Armageddon, blowing them up, sucking Eon into the sort of implosion that happens, and all is well. The power goes out in the city, and that is it. You're telling me that they tried to destroy it before, and it created the Grand Canyon, it created the Chicago fires, I'm pretty sure said it created some big earthquake as well. All we had to do was throw Eon into it, the thing would implode, everybody would be saved. Power outage is power... What? I'm all for a kids film. I'm all for it being like, yeah, it doesn't need to be like the most logical thing. This is what happens when you turn a cartoon into live action, I guess. So we return to the school talent show where Wildmutt storms the stage, followed by Gwen, who acts as if this was all part of a magic act. When the Omnitrix starts to time out, Gwen throws a massive curtain over him, and when he takes it off at the end, he's back to Ben. They get a big round of applause, but don't win the talent show, you know, despite bringing an entire alien onto the stage.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see the Bellwood Sassy stop an invading alien army from coming through a rift in space by defeating a time-traveling psycho.
And yeah, that as well. The movie ends with Max finally ditching the baseball cap and the tease of a new alien threat arriving on Earth. And that is Ben 10 Race Against Time. In some form of galactic nutshell, I guess. The alien tease at the end of this movie is very weird because it implies somewhat of a direct continuation, a direct sequel to Race Against Time, which didn't necessarily happen. This movie also isn't technically canon to the main show. I think it was supposed to be when written, but many storylines then took place which retconned most of the events, specifically making Eon a multiversal / future version of Ben 10 himself, rather than what this film said, which depicts him as a different race, a different species in general. You could follow the sort of headcanon that this was Ben's final adventure before moving on to Alien Force due to this line.
Might be time to put the Omnitrix away for a while, Ben.
I'm gonna miss it, though. Having no aliens around.
But then that messes with what they did in Omniverse with the 11-year-old Ben stories, plus this alien spacecraft has no relation to the DNA aliens or the High Breed, and I mean, even they didn't come until a few years after. There was about 6 months between this movie coming out and the classic Ben 10 series ending, so it's up for debate, I suppose. As for this movie itself, there's a lot I love, and a lot that I think is absolutely ridiculous. The Omnitrix was translated so gracefully into live action, and it made every kid in the late 2000s realise their toys were completely inferior. Like, I adored the Omnitrix FX, that was my favourite version of the Omnitrix. I had that game version, I had like weird Nerf versions. The Omnitrix FX, that was the peak. And yet you'd see them Race Against Time Omnitrix and you'd be like, if I, oh, do you know what I mean? And also the fact that a wearable Omnitrix like this has only ever been made through like independent artists is insane. Like you'd think they'd capitalize on that by now, especially with like all the 20th anniversary Ben 10 stuff they're doing this year. But we are coming up on the 20th anniversary of Ben 10, which is why I wanted to do this video. As much as I love the Omnitrix in live action, there's something else to be said about the aliens themselves. They're really not awful, but I wasn't lying when I said they get worse each time we see them. Heat Blast looked fine, if not great, for 2007, and the animation was pretty smooth. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did some sort of motion capture or at least animated to a reference video for the way Heat Blast moves. I think he looks great. Grey Matter can get away with looking a little janky because of how small and skittish he is, but Diamond Head looks unfinished, and Wildbutt feels like the VFX team had less than a week to model, animate, and composite him into the film. He does look a little better on stage at the talent show, but the entire sort of third act final fight is tarnished by the way Wildbutt looks, in my opinion. Not that the action was that great in this film anyway, the focus was definitely on fancy visuals over complex fight scenes, and I still cannot believe most of the fight choreography went to Heat Blast. Of all characters, the guy who can shoot fire and create big like domes of fire and fly with the fire. We did technically see him fly. He had a bit of airtime. To talk more positively though, the music in this film is phenomenal. The updated punk rock theme song still holds up today, and they made an effort to remake some of the audio stings and transitional music that we know from the show.
In Bellwood? A regular hardware store?
The casting also wasn't the worst in this film. Whilst hardly any of the line deliveries had any soul to them, they could have been a result of poor directing or Cartoon Network giving them the sort of Neo-Saban Power Rangers treatment where like they're not allowed to yell, they're not allowed to cry, they're not allowed to give any sort of actual emotion. Maybe that is just me trying to cover it for bad acting, I don't know, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Graham Phillips is a great actor who went on to voice Harry Osborn in the Insomniac Spider-Man games. It's crazy how two different versions of Ben 10 ended up working side by side in that Spider-Man game. Haley's acting came out the most when trying to save Ben, but even that was lackluster. Again, maybe that's part to blame on the writing and the directing, but Lee Majors? I don't know what's going on with this dude. Isn't he meant to be like the $6 million man? Like, they made bare films out of that. They even made The Return of the $6 million man because of how well those movies did, I think, anyway. Maybe they did it because he paid... I really don't know. But why is he in this, is my point. He doesn't look arsed in the slightest. Even in the interviews outside of this, he just doesn't give a shit. He must have had a fat payday. And honestly, the fact that Ben 10 got a live-action movie, a 2 at that, is remarkable. Not a lot of other Cartoon Network products, franchises got that. The only other Cartoon Network shows I recall to get a live-action treatment, at least an official one, were Scooby-Doo and The Flintstones. And even they were Hanna-Barbera, which came before Cartoon Network. The Powerpuff Girls almost got it. Something didn't work out there. Despite how phenomenal Ben 10 Classic was as a show, it's a bad movie. There's no denying that. It wouldn't stand a chance against the other superhero movies that were coming out around this time. I mean, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, I mean, even like Superman Returns. But the movie was pretty fun. It has a lot of charm, and it's impressive how well they were able to translate some of the cartoon stuff into live action. The Omnitrix, or obviously I mean the Omnitrix. On the Rust Bucket, I love that as well. I know I poked fun throughout the whole video, but believe me, I do love this film. It was such a joyous experience rewatching it for this video, both laughing at it and loving it with all the memories it brought back. Apparently before it was called Ben 10 Race Against Time, there were some other working titles. Ben 10 and the Hands of Armageddon was one, and Ben 10 Alive, which had some differences in the story to them as well, with Ben 10 Alive being a much darker version of the film. The Ink Tank did a whole video on reading the abandoned scripts, and I wish I could just pop to an alternate dimension just to see what those films would have looked like. I don't know, it'd be interesting. Oh, and going back to that cliffhanger at the end of the film, apparently there was meant to be a direct sequel to Race Against Time, but Cartoon Network ended up reworking it to be an Alien Force adaptation, which they also decided to make directly canon to the show. So Ben 10 Race Against Time is officially the only Ben 10 movie that isn't canon to the entire series. And speaking of sequels, I'd love for you guys to stick around on the channel because I will be looking at Ben 10 Alien Swarm in the near future. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much. Comment the word Rust Bucket down below so I know who made it this far and who didn't. And I'd love to know your thoughts on Ben 10 Race Against Time in the comments as well. Did you like the film? Did you hate it? Have you ever seen it before? Let me know. Huge thank you and shout out to Sarah Jane, Eric Leutz and Sam James, our Super Dino Mode patrons.